open on...
It's after midnight! We're living in a disco!
Yeah, I don't know what discos she's been to.
Enough is enough! No more Mr. Nice Guy!
Even without New York being in the title, it's easy to tell this takes place there. Anyway, the upstairs neighbor has a habit of playing loud music at night, and these two are sick of it. So the husband, Jay, goes upstairs to talk to the guy.
Do you know the time?
Oh, I know the time! Now open up this door before I call the police!
I'm not sure what he was expecting, but it wasn't that. This apartment is giving me Eraserhead vibes.
Between you and me, I loathe music in all forms. It's just that the bees adore it.
It turns out that this guy is keeping bees in his apartment.
You must have a very understanding wife.
Naturally, he's single.
The perfect food, honey.
Duh. You make your own honey.
What did you think the bees were for, dumbass? Either way, his methods have apparently resulted in some amazing honey.
Stuff is incredible.
Jay wants to buy some, but Dr. Jimmerman isn't interested in selling it. So some blackmail is in order. If he'll give Jay some honey on a regular basis, he won't rat him out.
Where would I go? I never go anyplace. I've got this phobia.
Calm down.
Honestly, you'd think that other neighbors would have also complained about this guy, but oh well.
1 jar of this stuff every evening.
Anyway, his plan is to sell the honey, so he's more than happy to put up with the loud music now. And so is his wife, Emerald.
Slither down here, you panther in pajamas.
A month later, Jay goes back upstairs with a cut of the money he's made from the honey.
Go away. Keep the money.
Forget he said that.
And suddenly there's a woman there.
My new associate.
Your associate? Whatever.
Her name is Desiree.
And Jay's pretty into her.
She has consented to be my wife.
Hey, fabulous. Let me be the first.
We will need all the honey we can produce. I'm afraid this is the end of our relationship.
Hold on.
Jay's facial expressions are amazing here, by the way.
I've got a line of billionaires from 7 continents just begging to ante up.
Will this help?
So Jay and Emerald have made some pretty serious bank on this honey, and while they're still living in the same apartment, it's got nice furnishings and they've got nice clothes. But on the downside, they're starting to have a bee problem. Emerald is allergic, which is going to come up later.
I think that you're overreacting.
Anyway, they've invited Dr. Jimmerman and Desiree to a dinner party because the honey production has gone way up recently.
If they notice it, say that it's a fire extinguisher. No, say that it's art.
Except that only Desiree shows up.
Hello, Emerald. Am I early?
What's with the extreme close-ups on only her?
Why does genius have to be so quirky? Man.
As different as these two outfits are, they're both so 80s. I love the batwing sleeves on Emerald's jacket.
That's some flower.
I do hope you like it, Jay. It whispered your name to me.
So, as expected, Desiree and Jay get along a little too well.
Did I miss a good joke?
No, a bad joke. You had a bee there.
Ugh, be glad you weren't. While Emerald's gone to bring some food up to Dr. Jimmerman, Desiree has Jay try some of her special honey.
Nice and warm.
No euphemism there.
No, stop.
Emerald?
Emerald? No.
Yeah, he doesn't care about Emerald. He just doesn't want to hurt his partnership with Dr. Jimmerman.
It seems we have a problem.
Meanwhile, Dr. Jimmerman has already figured out what's going on.
She never looks at me the way she looks at him. I built this paradise for her. The perfect society. All in the service of Her Majesty, the Queen. Any female rival is murdered.
Yeah, I think we know where this is going.
I don't think
She wants your husband.
Emerald tries to act like she doesn't believe any of it, but you gotta know that at least a seed of doubt has been planted in her mind. And then she walks in on this.
Can't we behave like grown-ups?
My house, my husband, my canapes, and you dare to tell me?
Get her, Emerald.
Lady, you have the morals of a bug.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a pun, but it's pretty funny on its own, too.
And then when a bug comes into my house, I exterminate.
Oh crap, she was gonna spray her with bug spray. We hear glass breaking and Jimmerman screaming upstairs. This scene is filmed in a weird way with how she and the other two were never in the same shot, so I had to watch it a couple times to figure out what happened.
I gotta go talk to her.
Apparently Emerald ran out of the room, though you only see her go just off screen before Jay reacts to her apparently leaving the room. That was badly handled because it's easy to assume that she's still in the room with them. Either way, it sucks to be Emerald. So now with her and Jimmerman out of the way, these two can get together.
You and me.
Don't you like happy endings?
Good for them.
A honeymoon.
Darling, you have such a way with words.
Except, yeah, Desiree was some kind of human-looking queen bee. Whoa. And so ends New York Honey. This episode, the characters were fun, it's got an interesting premise, but it doesn't quite click with me, and I think a lot of it is just down to bad presentation. I get that there's a plot-related reason for the loud music, but does it need to be so loud to the audience that it competes with dialogue? It doesn't drown out the dialogue, we can still hear it, but it's a big distraction, for me anyway. Also, I can't get over how badly they handled Emerald's death, and there are other things like the random awkward close-ups. Yeah, I don't hate this episode, but it could have been a lot better if there was more care and thought put into it. Also, as amusing as Jay's antics are, he's kind of an asshole and I don't really care when he dies. Even if he is under the influence of whatever Desiree gave him, he is acting kind of drugged afterwards. He wasn't that great of a guy even before that. As brief as it is, I do like the reveal of Desiree's final forms. Both of those are pretty cool designs. Speaking of which, she was played by Andrea Thompson, who was also in Falcon Crest, then would later go on to be in Babylon 5, NYPD Blue, Jag, and 24. That's pretty impressive. The rest of the actors in this are basically character actors who you've probably seen before but not as a regular on any show. The writer and director both also worked on Tales from the Dark Side. I guess that's about all I have to say about this one. I promise this show gets better again soon. Since I didn't have a whole lot to say about New York Honey, here's another episode.
Why even think about retiring? Boredom.
So this is Mr. Chariot, an old vampire hunter who is about to retire and travel the world.
You are the scourge of the undead.
They're white-livered cowards I have come to detest. No, Jack, I'm sick of that.
So of course a last-minute case comes in. This lady, Miss Warren, thinks that her brother might be a vampire.
He cannot bear the daylight and he never comes to church.
I don't know, that kind of sounds like me and I'm pretty sure I'm not a vampire.
They make him quite nervous.
He examines her to make sure she's not a vampire, so she asks him to come to her house and do the same with her brother. Chariot isn't interested, but not because of his boredom with it and desire to retire. He claims it's because it's too dangerous.
It's not the vampire who's the coward after all, is it?
If it seems like I'm glossing over the beginning, it's because it's very slow. I do kind of love this maid, though.
Oh, find a penny, pick it up. All the day you'll have good luck. You keep it.
Later on, Miss Warren comes back and convinces the assistant, Jack, to help her without Chariot. They go into the dungeon where the brother has been staying and...
Well done, my love.
This is where it starts to pick up. Jack is trying so hard, but he's clearly in over his head.
My name is Charles Poole. I'm an old friend of Ernest Chariot's.
This vampire is great. He reminds me a little of Bane.
I'll have my revenge on the mortal who did this to me.
Anyway, it turns out that when they couldn't get Chariot to come, they decided to lure him by capturing his assistant. Miss Warren thinks they should let him live, but that's not what Charles has in mind.
We are divinity to them. In the moment that they die, they love us.
Apparently, Chariot turned down this case because he suspected who the vampire was. It turns out that while he didn't go along with Miss Warren, he did do some research on her.
And as I suspected, she is not quite the sophisticated young lady she appears to be, but I think I'm onto her game.
And he just found out that Jack has been missing for 2 days.
You won't need the constable, Mr. Chariot. Your friend is at my home.
Oh, speak of the devil. So she has him come back with her, but he isn't allowed to bring any weapons, naturally.
Welcome, Ernest. Ernest, think about how I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, Charles is awesome. I love how expressive his eyes are.
You're the one who's afraid to die.
I've been dead 300 years.
No, undead.
There's also some great back and forth here between him and Chariot.
You crawl into a putrid box every morning to hide from death.
I've always hated your sermonizing.
And of course, Chariot demands that he release Jack.
Where is he?
God only knows.
So he tries Miss Warren.
They told me about you at the cotton mill. So much spirit, so much pride. You could never accept the drudgery, all of the abuse. You knew right from wrong. You stood up to them.
Are you about to beg her, Ernest? This is too rich.
Don't let yourself become like him.
And the mask comes off. They don't go into how that scar happened, but I'm gonna assume a splash of holy water.
He's a Jack in the box.
Well played, Charles. Though not much of a shock since the audience already knew he was dead. Chariot breaks off a wooden lever that was shown earlier and... it doesn't take. I guess it didn't go in deep enough and/or got pulled out.
Unkind.
Fortunately, Miss Warren had a change of heart, so to speak. The weapons that Jack had brought 2 days ago were still lying around. Miss Warren protects herself with a cross.
You won't get away this time, Ernest. I'm going to eat you out.
And she hands Chariot the stake. Charles was supposed to be Chariot's great adversary, but he's not too bright, is he? So he gets staked but good.
Put the mask back on, please.
I'll take that as a fuck no.
I'm sorry.
And so ends The Vampire Hunter. I really want to like this episode, and I do appreciate the second half or so, but the first half is pretty slow, with a lot of it being back and forth between Miss Warren and Chariot or Jack, and I think the problem is that I just don't find her interesting enough for her to pull it off. Once Charles Poole shows up, it does pick up, though. He is very captivating and a bit of a ham. I love the mask, though it seems to not fit over his ears quite right, and that's a little distracting whenever I can see it. Other than that, it's a fairly run-of-the-mill vampire story. All the lore's there, the coffins, the crosses, the stakes, the holy water, the female slave, and it's all played straight. They don't really do anything interesting or unique with it. I think they meant for this episode to be a slow burn, probably something along the lines of Dark Shadows, but I find it hard to not remain checked out until Charles shows up. I don't dislike it, but with something as overdone as vampires, you really need to add something unique to make it more interesting. The mask helped, but this episode just isn't very unique overall. Charles Poole was played by John Bulger, which is a name that I thought sounded familiar, but he hasn't been in anything I've seen, though apparently he was a regular on General Hospital. It turns out that he's the great-nephew of Ray Bulger, who played the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. I guess that's why. Miss Warren was played by Paige Hanna, who was in the Raft segment in Creepshow 2. Chariot was played by veteran actor Robert Lansing, who was also in the Twilight Zone episode The Long Morrow. The director Michael Gornick also directed Creepshow 2, some episodes of Tales from the Dark Side, and ended up producing a couple of Stephen King TV movies, namely The Stand and The Langoliers. The writer, Edith Swenson, was also a writer on Tales from the Dark Side. That's about all I have to say about this one. Next up is My Zombie Lover. See you then.
To meet with this marvelous, marvelous old lechery induces highly strung young ladies to publicize their naughty dreams.
Sigmund Freud?
And he calls it a science. I can hardly wait.